Let's hit the record button. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Trying to get all my screen stuff together so I can see everybody. Okay. So I don't think I have any new people on here that aren't aware of me. So we're gonna do this training and try to get it done as quickly as possible. You're all muted. So if you have a question, you can pop it in the chat box or you can raise your hand in the reactions and I will let you ask your question. So because I think questions will come up over time and I think some people interpret different things different ways, but okay, not sure why I'm muted. Most of y'all have been external evaluators at different times. So y'all are pretty familiar with this, but we want to fine tune some of this and tell you about some changes that are upcoming, but not coming right now, but upcoming. So this is our external evaluator training for the 21st Century Community Learning Center grant. And the purpose is to provide all 21st century grantees and the program external evaluators with updates, information, and resources to successfully complete the evaluation requirements for fiscal year 25. And you know what, before I go too far, just in case they are busy and might have to pop off, I want to take a minute to introduce our ALSDE people because I see Amanda on here. We have a new 21st century program coordinator, Amanda Ryland. So I'm gonna give her a second to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. As Erica said, thank you for inviting me. My name is Amanda Ryland. I am very new to 21st Century, so this is my first external evaluator meeting, but I'm super excited to meet you all and just hear what Erica has to tell everyone. If there's ever any way that we can help in any way, please just don't hesitate to reach out. We have kind of a brand new team at the State Department. The only person who's been with the program for a while is Alicia Alves. All the rest of us are fairly new. We're all still learning, but we're really good. I think we have a really good team that's super helpful. And if you ever need anything, just don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
And I have Alicia on here.
Good morning, everyone. If I haven't met you before, my name is Alicia Alves. I serve with the State Department of Education. My primary grant is the 21st Century Grant. I am happy to say that I'm glad to be here this morning and to learn a little bit about what you all do as far as with the training and whatnot. And if you have any questions, if you need to reach out, please do not hesitate. But I am one of the specialists. It's a total of 3 of us. And I happen to be, I don't understand how I am now not the new person anymore because I've only been doing it for about 4 years, but I've had a background in it because I was a building principal and had it in my building. So that's my experience as well. So good morning, everyone. And I'm looking forward to the training.
Thank y'all for letting me put y'all on the spot. I have another part of the PowerPoint that we're going to put y'all on the spot again when we're talking about updates, but we'll get to that later. All right, so objectives for using the external evaluator. So we want to, or for the training, we want to understand the importance of the evaluation process. We want to visit your evaluation plan, examine the evaluation requirements, review the student, parent, and teacher surveys, and then provide recommendations and best practices. So that's your objectives for the evaluation, but we want to fine tune. We want to talk about some specifics when we're going through this. So it's kind of like an agenda. So here's our agenda. We're going to talk about the evaluation plan, which is coming up. It'll be due December 15th. And when we're talking about the evaluation plan, we're also going to talk about the continuation application, which is something that the grantees turn in, but y'all play an integral role in that. We're going to talk about the conflict of interest form that has to be filled out, the APAS observation forms and training. the GEPR 2.0, external, the evaluation plan that's going to be due, logic model, timeline. And then for the mid-year report, that's normally due in March. We're going to talk about the action plan, the areas of improvement, action steps, responsible parties, progress, strategies, next steps. And then we're going to talk about updates and what's new and the cohort fiscal year 26 grant or RFA that is soon to come out. So like last year, we're going to have multiple trainings available for y'all. I even think I want to open up like an office hours. Last year, we did an external evaluation training, but this year I want to not just do a training, but do an office hours for questions that y'all have. And, you know, we'll do that. We'll send y'all the dates as we get closer, but that will be closer to when your final report is close to being done, when we feel like y'all should be pulling reports from Easy Report to start doing your final report. So that's when we'll do that training. We also will do a training for the grantees and for y'all for mid-year reports, because we had a lot of questions about that. So that will probably be around February that we'll do a virtual training for that, for the mid-year reports, and that will be recorded. Those additional trainings are not required, but they are heavily suggested. But then we also will send y'all the recordings of it. And if you have questions and all of that beforehand, send them to us. We'll try to deal with those at the time, and then we'll discuss them at the trainings also. Because generally, y'all are doing the same things. Y'all have the same questions, and it's helpful for us to kind of share what tips and tricks that y'all have figured out to try to make this better. Or if we see something that we're like, not quite, let's do something else, then let's address it then. So continuation application. So like I said, this is not something that y'all turn in. This is something that the grantees turn in, but they need from you a signed copy of their final report, 23-24. So the report that was due September 30th. I know we did an extension for it to October 31st. And as of now, the GEPR data is in there for all the GEPRs except for GEPR 2, which is the GPA. So that should be the only portion that you are missing in your, if you had that portion. But be mindful, because I know a lot of people were looking for the GEPR data or the PowerSchool data to give them the student grades. That is not what we received. And I've told the grantees that several times. PowerSchool does not give us individual student grades. PowerSchool gives us, did they improve? Did they stay the same? Did they decline? That's all they give us. They give us that same thing for state assessments. So when you're looking for grades, did they improve a letter grade, or did they go from B to C, or B to A, whatever? That's not what we have. So if that's what they put in their RFA, then they needed to either upload those things into Easy Report, because they still can't upload grades into Easy Report, or they sent you a spreadsheet with the grades. I've seen several grantees who had great spreadsheets that were available to send to y'all. So that's how they should have gotten their grades. So you shouldn't be dependent on PowerSchool or Easy Report to give you individual grades unless the grantee loaded them in. And they still have the availability to load in reading grades, math grades, and science grades. So those are open. So they will need to upload a copy of their signed final report, and they will need to upload a fall 24, meaning this school year right now, signed observation form. And that's due on November 15th. Now, if you have not done your observation by November 15th, then they can put a placeholder in there for right now. But as soon as you do the observation, which means they should have it in before school is out in December, to say, hey, here it is, we completed it. But I had a couple of external evaluators who reached out to me and said, hey, I'm waiting to do my observations till we have the training. If you have been an external evaluator in years past, these are not the first years of the grant, then we're okay with you going ahead and doing the observation when the fall starts. So if you want to do the observation in August, you can go in and do the observation in August. It would be a really good reflection and of the first beginning of school if you did it in August. It would also give them some recommendations, some really helpful recommendations to have at the beginning of school, to kind of tell them different ways that they can try to beef up the things that they're doing or the things that you observe that need some improvement. So Those are due November 15th. So they'll need those from you. They have to be signed. And once they upload them, be mindful. And I told you this last year, the final reports, they're seen and the observations are seen by the ALSD staff also. So if every one of your things for your observation says 4s, but then your comments reflect something different than a 4, then that's what we're not expecting all 4s. There shouldn't really be all 4s. That's like telling a program that they're perfect and you didn't observe anything bad. You should come in, you should be a fly on the wall and give us an idea of what the programs are doing outside of when ALSD does an official monitoring or the TAs go in. So be mindful of that. I've seen a lot of observation reports recently who had some really good commentary on what they saw and gave really good reflections or recommendations for the observation, which is what you should do when you see something that, you know, hey, this wasn't quite right. But make sure what is reflected in the observation report is also reflected in the final report. So you shouldn't have given them really good you should have given them really good recommendations if you saw something that, like a behavioral problem or something like that. But your your final report should also reflect in the recommendation section that they have some PD for behavior or they do some other things reflective of what you saw in the observation. So your final report shouldn't just come from the easy report data that you pull. It should come from the conversations that you had when you were at the site, the things that you saw at the site, and a bunch of different evidence aside from just uh, easy reports. So the conflict of interest form, I'm gonna click on this, but this is verbiage that I got specifically from the cohort 17 grant. So the external evaluator must be an individual, agency, organization, etc., with no vested interest in the 21st century program. Excluded from external evaluation are family members of the applicant and or family members of partners, employees of applicants, and or employees of applicants' partners. If you fit into any of those categories, let us know because you will be barred from being an external evaluator. And I have a link to the form, and Linda Williams will send the form out when we send the recording out, when we send the PowerPoints out. We'll send all of those. It's Thursday, so give us by next week to send them out to y'all. But it's the same form that we've had before, and it'll need to be signed by you, and it will also need to be signed by the grantees. And then the deadline for that should be sometime in December. We're not like too pushy on it, but it does need to be signed quickly and sent back to us. And as always, it'll be an upload box that you'll upload it into. So what is program evaluation? It's kind of what we talked about previously, but it's examining the purposes, the proposed goals versus the actual implementation and the program success. Again, you're going in, you're doing observations, you're looking at a long list of evidence, which I have that in the slide coming up, to see how the program is doing. And we're not looking for, okay, it's their first year or it's their second year and they're perfect. We're not even looking for it's their third year and they're perfect. Every program or every program is going to be a work in progress. There should never be I went there and they are just excellent and I saw no issues. I didn't see a child out of place. I saw everything and it was perfect. Tell us really what you saw. You are working for the grantees and we do want you to shed a good light for them, but we also want it to be realistic. Your observations should be true observations of what you saw. If you saw that a student misbehaved and you saw how the teacher disciplined them, then that's what should be reflective of it. If it was a great discipline moment and the teacher did everything right, then reflect that. If you saw an activity and you felt like, well, that activity didn't quite meet a STEM characteristic, then say that. How could they have pushed that to be a better lesson? How could they have involved the students more? How could they have made it more open-ended? We want y'all to be experts in this information. It shouldn't just be that you are externally evaluating, you know nothing about education or what should be going on in this type of program. And if you need some additional training on 21st century, I can kind of pinpoint, there's a lot of stuff on our YouTube page for trainings and stuff that our grantees have went through, so you can know more about the rules and regulations of 21st century. The RFA is also a good place to look to see what exactly they're supposed to be doing. so that you can be aligning your visits, your observations, your final report, all of that with that information. So you're looking at the program's strengths and weaknesses, including what worked and what didn't, like I just talked about. Then you're providing recommendations for the program's improvement, again, based on the information that you have about 21st century. And there is plenty of information about 21st century out there. If you need more information, there's a bunch of it on our YouTube page. If you have a specific question about 21st century and you just, not quite sure, give me a call. I'm perfectly fine with answering questions or telling you stuff about 21st century so that we can make sure that this external evaluation process is actually useful for the grantees. So why do external evaluation? Well, first, it's mandated by the Department of Education. But we don't want this to just be a check the box type of thing. So we want you to provide an objective third-party report of what you're seeing. Like I said before, ALSCE goes out and does monitoring. We have TAs that do monitoring. But, we all know when people come into our programs, we put on, we shape up, we just to make sure our programs look good. When you go there as an external evaluator, they should be so comfortable with seeing you that it's just a normal occasion. So, think about that when you're going. We want to see program improvement from the external evaluation. We want you to give them insightful recommendations so that they can improve their program. And especially I have some people who are external evaluators for multiple programs. Well, you've seen great things in other programs that you can give them suggestions and recommendations from things that you saw work well at other programs. So you're kind of in an advantage because you have other programs that you're looking at on a regular basis also. We're going to provide a progress report for the Department of Education. So like I said before, they're going to upload this into their EGAP application. They're also going to upload it for compliance. So all of those things are giving checks and balances for more than just TPI looking at it. You're going to increase the accountability for taxpayer funds. 21st Century is a federally funded program. Our tax dollars pay for this stuff. So we want to make sure that they're doing a good program, providing a good service to students and families in Alabama. And they're going to improve the technical assistance based on your recommendations or based on your observations. We're going to try to tailor our professional development and technical assistance for the grantees to see what you feel like they need help in. So if you're telling me that, if more than one person's final report says, hey, I saw some behavioral problems, well, then we know that we should be giving more training on behavioral problems. That's also the same with the grantees. If you saw behavioral problems or something in their program, they should be mindful of that, and that should be a PD topic that they try to get for their staff. And then you're going to promote targeted professional development, just like I just talked about. So let's get into the APTO section. So this is the observations are APTO, that's what that is. And every external evaluator has to be trained through NIOST. So if you have not done the NIOST training at least once, then let me know and I will add you in the system. It should still be open. I have to renew the contract later on this year. So we're not changing anything. The required section is still the overall program ratings and impressions. So when I say overall program ratings and impressions, I mean that you should be at the program when they start. If they dismiss at 2:55, I'm looking for you to be there at 2:55, and I'm looking for you to stay at the program at least 2 hours. I would like for you to see the whole program. So I want you to see all of these steps and greens. I want you to see the arrival time. I want you to see a transition time. I want you to see homework time, informal social time, activity time, and preferably at least one pickup time. So I want you to think about that because I do have people who are observing or they're external evaluator for more than one grant. So think about your time. How much time are you going to dedicate to this program? I know 3% seems like a lot. And I know when y'all are doing a budget for the external evaluation, maybe the 3% isn't a lot if you're going 4 hours to see the grantee. I'm not sure. But think about that when you're taking on grantees. I need for you to be seeing the whole program. So if that's 2 hours, then you're staying 2 hours, but the minimum is 2 hours. But if their program is a 3-hour program, I'm expecting for you to be there and spend a day with them, 3 hours. If their program is 2 hours and 30 minutes, be there for 2 hours and 30 minutes. I want you to see the whole program. I understand that you're not going to be able to see every class, do every session. So that would be like telling you, well, if they have grades 1 through 5, I want you to be there 5 days. No, 1 day. So I want you to go in. I want you to see the arrival time of the students. I want you to be in there when they do snack. When they go to another class, I want you to go choose what activity you're going to go in. If that means you're going to go to the kindergarten class first, and then you're going to skip and you're going to go to the first grade. But I want you to see the program. And the reason I want you to stay for pickup time is I want you to be able to talk to parents. You need to be talking to parents. You need to have a survey or a questionnaire that you're doing with the parents. And it could just be a conversation that you start asking them questions about the program. What do they like about the program? What would they like to see in the program? What are some activities, parent involvement activities that they'd like to see? These are how you're going to get the recommendations for the grantees and the evidence of that you're going to add to the final reports. You're going to talk to parents. You're going to talk to staff. You're going to talk to kids. You should have evidence of this. And then these questionnaires and how, you're just going to transcribe what they said. You're going to put that in your appendices because that's evidence of your final report. So be mindful about that. So you're going to have one required session, which is the overall program ratings and impressions. That's one whole form for the NIOS. And I can't post those online, but we will send y'all the forms. But you can log back into NIOS and get those forms at any point. There is not a signature line at the bottom, but they need to be signed by you and either the site director or the program director that you spoke to at the site. So be mindful of that. That you need to have those forms with you when you're on the site, and they need to be signed before you leave. And then you can make a copy there, or if y'all want to, hey, there's a way you can do a PDF on your phone, you take a picture, whatever it is, but they need a copy of that because their fall observation has to be uploaded into eGap, again, November 15th. But they need to have it for the fall and the spring and the summer when you do observations. So they have to be signed by you and the person that you talk to at the site, and then you need to give them a copy. They have to be uploaded several places. So, but then you're gonna choose one. So you're gonna choose one of the forms to fill out, observation forms for one of the ones in green. So the arrival time, transition time, homework time, informal social time, activity time, or pickup time. You choose one of those, but you're gonna do the overall. That's your required one for us. So observations. You have one per summer, so you're definitely going to do fall and spring. And summer is an asterisk because not all programs wrote for summer. But if they have a summer program, you should be doing an observation for that. So that is a question when you're doing your contract with the grantees. Okay, are you writing for fall and spring, or are you writing for summer? And we'll talk about updates in a minute, but eventually this new cohort is going to have a summer only. So you need to know what they're writing for so that you can give them a true budget. And my next thing is going to be trying to ask y'all for a budget to actually tell me how you're spending this money, because the 21st century is increasing. But I'm not asking you for that now. I'm not saying that I'm not sure if I'm going to ask you for it, but as this money increases, it needs to be kind of shown, and that's normally in an evaluation. How did you spend the money that they paid you? Because now it's 3% for a $200,000 grant. The new grant is going to be more. So think about that. But site visits should be at least 2 or more, it's supposed to say hours, and I'll update that. The NIOS observation training is mandatory. You only have to do it one time. So if you did it 5 years ago, you still have a login. I did it maybe 10 years ago. But still have a login. You can go in and do a refresher because they do update the sessions. And there's also a separate trainings for elementary and middle school. So if you've only observed elementary school and now you have a middle school, that'd be a great place to go in and do some training so you can get some refresher, but it's only mandatory one time. You must use the NIOS observation tool. It's on their website, and we're going to send you copies. I cannot place it on our website because it has to be behind a login because it's their proprietary information. But make sure that when you're downloading those, that you're adding a signature line to it because you have to sign it and the grantee has to sign it. And that's what it says. All observations must be signed by the site coordinator and program coordinator and the external evaluator. The interviews should be conducted on site. I already talked about that with the parents, the students. I've been signing my observations, so should I be signing them? Yes. Okay, yes, there was a question in the chat box that they have not been signing their observations. So should they be signing them? Yes, they should be signed. Let's see. Observations, yes, must be signed and uploaded by the site program coordinator incognito. They not only uploaded incognito, they uploaded an eGap with their continuation grant. So there's multiple layers of checks and balances with 21st Century. There's multiple layers of us doing monitoring and things that we have to turn in for the federal government. So we want the external evaluation process to be an integral part in that. We want it to help that process, not be a hindrance where the grantees are trying to track you down to get a signed observation form or a signed final report, or when we're asking for updates because this isn't correct or something else or something needs to be taken out or added to. We're not asking for it just because it's a mandatory thing with 21st Century grant, and that's where the money comes from. So that's kind of what we have to do. All right, so the principles to guide evaluations, there's always room for improvement. Like I said, it shouldn't be just straight fours and your observation telling me you saw everything was great there and you saw nothing that went wrong, no child, all the lesson plans were great. You saw copies of the lesson plans, they were all aligned to the state standards. There should be some room for growth in everything. They do have a new lesson plan standard, probably about a year or so ago. They have to align all of their lesson plans with an Alabama state standard. They have to align it with one of their objectives in the grant. So all of these things have to be tied to. So when you're going in, you need to know their grant objectives. So you need to be able to say, well, which objective does this go with? Well, is this a STEM activity? Okay, well that's clear. If you're seeing a parental involvement, what are the parents learning during that session? Not just that the parents are coming in and they're being entertained by their kids. Yes, I love some entertainment by your kids. I love for you to come in and see your kids sing, and I'm probably going to couple it with that if you come to my program, but I'm going to figure out how to sneak in a little learning. Even if that meant we're going to have a healthy snack because I want to feed you, but I can't feed you without doing a lesson plan for it and doing an activity. So I'm going to show you how to give your kids a healthy snack. So that's nutrition. That's literacy because you have to read it. That's some math. And I'm going to tie it to a state standard with that. And that's directly going to be tied with my parental involvement objective in my grant. So make sure that they're tying it. When you're going, you're not just going to look and smile and, oh, okay, we're checking the box. We're doing an external evaluation. We want to make sure that they're getting something from this while you're there, and they're getting something from this when you're doing recommendations and their whole evaluation report, because they should be able to share this with their stakeholders too. This should be a document that they share with their principals, should be a document they share with their superintendent. It should be a document that is available for parents and anybody else that wants to see the report. This is like if you were a nonprofit, an executive summary. What have y'all done for the year with the money that you were granted? That's what the external evaluation final report is. So changes that involve everyone is most successful. So having conversations with everybody there. Like I said, asking parents and students and staff, what would you like to see in the program? Have a questionnaire available for them and have that in the appendices. Let me see, promote shared leadership. Everyone has something of value to contribute. That's again, talking to staff. Hey, what's something that you'd like to do in this program that you haven't figured out how to do? Oh, let me help you align this to the RFA so that, that y'all could potentially start offering this in after school. Because every so often, burnout is real in education. And sometimes it takes an external person to come in and say, hey, well, let's try something new, or what do you have? And let me help you to get push us even further. So the other thing, slow, gradual change is more lasting. So this is a 3-year process. So every year it should be something further. You should be working towards those goals. We're not expecting for perfection the first year. We're not even expecting perfection from the last year. We just want to make sure that every year they're inching towards a better program. So the evaluation plan, I'm gonna go. So we're trying to build a strong program. So we want to demonstrate the program's effectiveness, provide valuable insight towards improvement, improve decision-making and resource allocation, and promote and highlight your program. So we all know that the evaluation plan is due December 15th. It's one of those first things that's due. We want you to have a conversation with your grantees before you complete this evaluation plan. So this should be the first conversation, or it could have very well already happened, but this is a planned conversation that you should have with your grantees before you complete this evaluation plan to figure out where y'all are. This is a conversation, okay, well, based on the initial year's evaluation, because all of y'all are either in cohort 16 or 17, so we're either year 2 or we're year 3. Our final report should have said all these things are linking. Final report should have told us where we were at the end of the first year. So now that we're going into year 2, where are we as far as the evaluation questions that were created, the RFA objectives that were created, and where are we trying to go? So all of those things are developed into a logic model. This is not just a template that we're giving. We're looking for this logic model to not only be in your evaluation plan because it's your roadmap, but we're also looking for it to be in the appendices for the final report. Some people are putting it in the evaluation plan, but forgetting to put it in the final report. Should be in there as far at least in the appendices. So again, we're not creating brand new evaluation plan questions. Those are in the first one. You're going to figure out how you're addressing them this year. And the evaluation plan should explain the purpose and the goals of the evaluation, lay out all the data to be collected, provide the timeline for the evaluation. And that timeline should be, if this is your second year of the grant, that timeline is different. If last year they were cohort 17, so they didn't start until, some of our grantees started in November, some started in January if they were brand new. So your evaluation plan should have reflected that in your timeline. This year, the timeline should be different. So your timeline should have started in, you could say in August. It could also start in, I would say started in August. Or you could have started it really in the summer because you have to report summer data in this. Like your timeline should be reflective of what's the plan for this year. So think about that versus it's the start of the school year or it shouldn't be the summer. Summer should have been reported in the final report for last year, but so it should be indicative of August to the end of the summer. So think about that as far as your updates that you've done, because everything should not be the same for year 1 and year 2 or year 3. Want to document the program activities. So what are things that they're planning to do? Things that they changed from last year. And that's not saying that they're deferring from the objectives in the grant or what they initially put in the grant, but how they implement it from the first year to the second year is going to be different. If I wrote a service learning project in the initial grant, it's not going to be the same service learning project for the second year or the third year. Because at this point, aside from the RFA, I've talked to my students and I've talked to parents and I've talked to community stakeholders, and we've potentially looked at another thing that we want to do and try to support the community with our service learning project. So that's in your plan. Document the program activities. How have they changed? How have they updated? What have they, and some things could have, well, this, the first year we did a tier 1 thing. Well, next year we're building on that and we're building even further. So the evaluation plan should not be exactly the same as the first year, or if you're in cohort 16, the second year. It should grow as their program grows. I want to outline how the evaluation will be distributed to the stakeholders. And I gave you a list of those people a minute ago, but they might not be the same. They might have a different superintendent. They might have a different principal. And if they do, have you met that person? Do you have they had a conversation with that person? This should also be an opportunity to help them with some relationship building within their stakeholders. We'll provide an evaluation plan template for you to use. And I don't think we've made I don't think we've made any updates to the evaluation plan. So the one on the website is fine. We will go back and look, but it's the same. And these are the parts of it. So the introduction, the background and description, the goals and objectives straight from the RFA, they will not change. The stakeholders or the goals and objectives, if they did change, then that was something that they had approved through the ALSD staff, and that should have been in their continuation application. So make sure that you're using this same verbiage that they're using in the continuation application so that you can make sure that these documents are cohesive. Stakeholders, which again, those could have changed. The partners in the grant that they had when they first wrote the grant might not be the same people that they use as partners now. Everybody understands I might have had 10 people say that they wanted to be a partner when I initially wrote the grant. And then when I called on them, that person had left, so they didn't want to participate anymore. And that's fine. So I went out and I found another partner. So the current partners should be in place in this evaluation plan for their current stakeholders. And again, updated staff, updated administration of the school or whoever. The purpose, data collection and methods, what, when, how, and the tools include copies. Like I said, if you do a questionnaire, you need to include what are the questions for the questionnaire. Appendices should include the logic model, the timeline, reports, meetings, data collection, and the evaluator information and credentials. You should have a CV or a resume, preferably a CV, in the appendices. The logic model. So when talking about the logic model, this is a comprehensive logic model to conduct the successful evaluation. Remember, I said this is your roadmap, and we're going to give you a template for it in a second. And there's a template in the evaluation plans template also. The logic model should be based on the goals and objectives outlined in the RFA. The evaluation questions should be developed to evaluate the program's progress on their stated goals and objectives. All of this is tied into the RFA. This is not anything that we're creating or y'all are creating from scratch. This is going to be based on their evaluation from their initial RFA that they wrote, or whoever in their LEA or CBO wrote. So it's going to include the goals. Goals are going to be from the grant, the inputs, the resource staff, funding partners, equipment. So those could have changed. Those could have been updated based on where they are right now. So that's what I'm saying. All of these things have a slight update that they could have gotten throughout the years, because staff and if they have additional funding, partners, equipment, some of those things, if they have 21st century, the equipment has changed throughout the grant because they bought something. Their staff might not be the same. Even if they have the same program director, they might have a new site director, whoever it is, they might have a new principal, executive director, whatever. That needs to be updated in the logic model. The outputs, the strategies and activities to achieve the goal, that could have changed. How they, the activities that they create to work towards this goal, or the curriculum that they purchased to work towards this goal, those things could have changed. That's not changing the RFA goals and objectives. That's changing how they implement it, the methods. So those could have changed. So we want to make sure that those are updated. The outcomes, short-term, intermediate, and long-term. Those could be the same, but they could have added some things to it. This is based on conversations that you're having with the grantees to figure out what they have been doing. And this is not just your conversations when you're doing the observation. This is part of the conversation that you're having with them about the evaluation plan. If you need to set up a Zoom with them, you need to set up a phone call with them, if you need to go to their site, but it needs to be a conversation that where y'all go through the evaluation plan and you ask them specifically about updates to their programs and things that are going on that need to be included in your evaluation plan and how you're measuring them throughout the year. And then performance measures. So data used to access the progress of the program towards the goal. Could be the same, could be slightly different, because they could be closer to the goal. So the first year, the RFA might have said, well, we're going to serve 100 kids. Well, last year they might have served 50. Well, what are we going to do to try to serve 75 this year? Because we're still working towards the 100. What are those performance measures that are going towards that? So there's updates that can be done throughout this whole evaluation plan, and we want to make sure that everybody is aware. So timeline. The evaluation plan to TPI is due December 15th. The conflict of interest form is due December 30th. So remember, you have to sign it and your grantee has to sign it. So if you have more than one grantee, then you need more than one form. I'm not asking you for one per site though. So if you have 4 sites that you evaluate within one LEA, then you can just get the program director to sign your one conflict of interest form for that LEA. You don't have to get 4 individual site directors to sign it. But if you just have that one site and you just want to get the site director sign, it does not matter if it's the program coordinator or the site coordinator to sign it. It just needs to be signed. The mid-year report is going to be due. I'll get back to y'all, but right now we're saying January 31st, but we want to do some training on the mid-year report. So it probably will be pushed back a little bit further because we need to update that form to try to make that a little bit more clear from last year. And then the final report is due September 30th, 2025. And we'll have more trainings and we'll do more discussion about trying to get the data from Power School and what y'all need for the final report. So mid-year and final report are subject to change. And if it changes, we will let y'all know way ahead of time. And then this again is saying, remember, you have at least one site observation must be completed per semester. So if they have at the minimum, you're going to do fall and spring. But if they have a summer, you're going to do summer also. These observations should be scheduled with the site coordinator and program director ahead of time, unless you've had the conversation with your external evaluator. I used to do a shared calendar with my external evaluator, my calendar that I did for all of my sites. I added my external evaluator on it, so they knew every time I was having an event at these different sites, because everything was on I try to put everything on the calendar at the beginning of the school year. So they knew if I was having an event or if it was just a random day, as long as there was nothing on the calendar, or if there was some, they were free to go to the sites. So I, during my first staff meeting with all of my site directors, would tell my site directors, hey, this is our program coordinator. I would show a picture or give their contact information or whatever. When you see this person, they are free to come in and observe. They're doing official 21st century stuff, and you should carry on as normal so that they can observe the things that they need to observe. That could be a conversation that you have with your grantee. So y'all could either have a scheduled observations or you can have an unscheduled observation. But if you're going to have an unscheduled observation, it need to be a conversation ahead of time, not just popping up on them. So we talked about data sources for the information that you're going to use for the evaluation process, not just for the evaluation plan, but for the final report too. You're going to use easy reports. Every external evaluator has access to easy report in a read-only manner, so you can't enter data in there, but you can pull reports. I have a lot of grantees who are telling me that they're still pulling their reports, and that's fine if that's what y'all have agreed to, but y'all asked for the access, so I need for y'all to actually pull the reports if that's what you're gonna do. I shouldn't have grantees telling me, they ain't really telling me, but I can infer from what they're saying that they're writing parts of the external evaluation of the final report. They shouldn't be writing parts of the final report. They should be checking it, making sure the numbers are correct, making sure that you crossed all your I's and dotted all your T's, but they shouldn't be writing it. You're getting paid to do the external evaluation process. They should only be giving you the information that you ask them for. Now, you can give them a long list of things that you need from them because again, these are your data sources. Site coordinator and program coordinator, meaning y'all had a conversation or you emailed them a list of things that you needed from them, because there are other things that you need that are not just in Easy Report. Surveys with the staff, the parents, the students, the school staff, stakeholders, everybody you want to survey. Yes, you can use the surveys that are in Easy Report. You can also go and do interviews with these people on site, and that could be your sampling of responses from staff, student, and stakeholders and parents. Observations that where you go, but again, when you're telling me that you observed XYZ, the recommendation from the observation should also be somewhere included in the final report. So make sure that's not just a living hanging document that we never know is linked to the final report. It should be linked to it to tell us what you observed. Lesson plans, you should be asking them for lesson plans for the activities that you are seeing when you're observing the site. They should have lesson plans available for those, and you should make sure that they are linked to the RFA's objective and linked to a state standard. Make sure of that. There's a template for the lesson plan on the website that you can go look for. Or you can email me and I'll send it to you. No big deal. Me or Linda Williams. Pre and post test. If that's something that they put in their grant, if that's something that you're pushing for them to have, that could be a recommendation that you that you tell them about. But that's a data source. That's evidence. If you're getting it, then show me how you've integrated it into your final report. And talk about it in the evaluation plan. Grades, again, not from Power School. Looking for grades from either they entered in them an easy report or they sent them to you in a spreadsheet without the student demographic information or without the student identifiable information. You can't have the demographic information in it. And be mindful of FERPA. Do not put student data in these final reports. These final reports are public records. So they cannot have, and if you upload it into the system, Auburn will kick it out because Auburn knows, hey, this has information that looks like FERPA. We're not gonna take it. And they're gonna kick it right on out. They're not even gonna let us save it. So be mindful of that. And then state assessments. And again, yes, state assessments are going to be available through Power School. Are you going to get an actual number? Nope. Just an increase, decrease, to stay the same. So that's not going to give you the information you need. Come up with a plan with your grantees to get the information that you need. If that means creating a list, I had one external evaluation send me a long list of things that she needed from me at the end of summer, and it would take me days to gather the evidence. But I knew that I would have a complete final report because the information that I gave her was going to give her a great picture of our program. And she used that with the interviews, with the observations, with the survey data. All of these data sources made for a very rich final report. Appendices. So in the appendices, you're going to have the logic model. You're going to have a one-page visual. That's a one-page visual of the program progress. Again, that's your roadmap. You're going to have a timeline, 1 to 2 pages, the meetings, data collections, report due dates, dissemination of results, who are they going to give it to? It's like an executive summary. And then the additional documents could be the observations, must be a wet signature. Linda Williams laughed at me. She said she had never heard wet signature before I said it. And I thought I got it from the State Department. Wet signature, meaning it's not something that you digitally signed with DocuSign, where it's not an actual, I won't say actual signature. And that doesn't mean that you couldn't have signed it in a PDF or whatever, but it needs to be an actual signature. And then surveys. Let's see. And by surveys, I don't mean they're completed surveys. I just mean a copy of the survey so that we know what questions you asked them. Using the results, we talked about this a little bit before. How will the results feedback be utilized? Give them suggestions on who they should give this report to, because we do have new staff people and sometimes people don't know. So this should be given to the stakeholders. When and with whom would the evaluation results be shared internally? We're going to have a staff meeting and we're going to give it to the staff. We're going to tell them, what our final report said. How did it say that we fared? Were we doing good in this? Do we have recommendations for this? We're going to talk about that, and that's going to lead us to have different PD for our staff within my program. This is what I would do, so that it's a living document. It's not just something that we check the box to do. Externally, we're going to give it to principals advisory board because they're supposed to be doing meetings for those. That's a good place to talk about it. I gave them a copy normally, so I would have one at Christmas time. So we would, I coupled it with a Christmas tree lighting or something like that. But that'd be a good way to remind them, hey, you're supposed to do an advisory council meeting. And then other stakeholders, people that give them money or people that donate things to them. This is a good way for them to see, hey, this is how we used your dollars, or this is how we used your in-kind donation, or partners that they have that do in-kind, that come in and do it for free. Hey, here you go. This is what they said we were doing. So let me see. What methods will be the best to be shared to share the results? Do you want a written report? Do you want to create a brief for them, like a 2-pager, or do you want to have a meeting and explain it with them? And that doesn't mean that you explain it, but that means that they explain it. Either way, because we've had some people, oh, well, we had a board meeting for it, and they actually went in front of the school board and talked about it, because you might have given some great recommendations. Will and how will feedback be solicited from stakeholders? And then 2 or 3 paragraphs. I don't know what that means, but go ahead. And then this is the evaluation plan template. I'll click on it. It does not look different than it looked before. Let me make sure y'all can see that. Yes, you can. Great. Make that bigger. This is the website that you'll link it to. And I'm glad I pulled this up. Y'all be mindful. I tell y'all how I want this document to be labeled. So the title of the file should be 2024-25 grantee name. So Better Basics dash school name, Brantley Elementary evaluation plan. So it should have those 4 pieces: 2024-25, the grantee name, the school site name, and evaluation. They're all, everyone that I give y'all, they all are labeled this way in some, like that same, the year, the grantee name, the school site, and then what it is. Because if you just tell me who the LEA is and they have 12 grants, that is not helpful for me. I'm trying to click through and figure out, because we end up, when y'all update it, we download the file and then we share the file with ALSDE and all of our sites, all of our, not sites, staff that work with TPI with 21st Century, and we go through these. But if they're labeled all the same, it is difficult for us to figure out who is who without clicking on it and having to rename them. That is not fun. And then this again says the copy of the evaluation should be shared with the grantee's program director and technical advisor by email before uploading. So they should have a copy before you give us a copy. So, and that doesn't mean that you specifically send it to the technical advisor, but once you send it to the grantee program director, then they should be sharing it with their technical advisor. And then we share them on the back end also. So let me make sure y'all saw that. Let's see. All right. Mid-year report template. Let me see. I got some in the chat box. Okay. All right, Linda Williams, you ready?
Good morning. I am ready. Thank you, Erica. My portion of this training is a mid-year report. Now, one thing that I need to make sure that you are reminded of is any document that you are writing or you're submitting to the grantees, make sure that not only you sign it, but they sign it as well. All documents must be signed. And I don't know whether we can reiterate that enough, but all documents must be signed. Now, we're going to talk about the mid-year report. We have cohort 16 and 17, and we don't have any new grantees this year. So everybody should have started back in August. And so come January, we're in the middle of the year. And so we're simply asking the site coordinator and the program director, how's the program going? Based on the grant. So they have to go back, they have to make sure that they're going back and looking at the grant. Look at your goals, look at your objectives. Can you see any type of growth? Do you see whether or not they need some type of improvement? And if so, put it on your action plan. Your action plan is usually you're listing your goals and objectives based on your grant. And you're also telling us how you're going to measure this. This is also in your grant, also the progress and the strategies that they're going to use. Now, I look at the mid-year report as a living document. And the reason I look at it as a living document, because sometimes I may put some strategies down, and guess what? They may not work. They may have worked last year, but I have a different set of children this year. So this year mid-year report should not look like last year because of the kids that we have. I may have more auditory learners. I may have more textile learners or kinesthetic learners, but my strategies may be a little bit different. And how does this as an external evaluator applies? How does it apply to you? Well, guess what? You have to sign off on this mid-year report. You have to look at it and you have to examine to make sure, hey, did they fill this out correctly? And if they have, well, then you can sign off on, but make sure you're discussing your mid-year report with the people that are in the program. Also, Erica, can you scroll down just a little bit? The problem we had last year, down a little bit more, is with the areas for improvement. As we started to read the areas of improvement from the grantees, it was based on their goals and objectives. But when you're talking about areas of improvement, when you're talking about the action plan, that to me simply means, what are you going to do to ensure us that you're going to actually meet these goals, or the State Department, how are you going to meet these goals? So that's your areas for improvement. Are you trying to improve in math? Are you trying to improve in science? Are you trying to improve your attendance? Or what about your parental involvement? What are your areas of improvement? And that is still yet based on the grant itself. And so then we ask, what are your action steps? How do you plan on doing this? What is your next step? Who's responsible? Is it the teachers? Is it the students? Who's responsible for this? And we gave them an example, like for an example, parental involvement. How can you increase parental involvement? What are the action steps are you going to do? Are you going to have workshops for parents? Are you going to have things that your parents can come in and interact with the students? What can you do in order to improve parental involvement or community involvement? Because I heard a lot of talk, and one of the things that we really harp on with the grantees is the fact that the community needs to be involved. You need some type of sustainability. So your community needs to be involved. How is the community involved? So even when you're writing your recommendation, if you don't see any evidence of the community being involved in all of this, because they are yet another stakeholder in this cycle. And the cycle that I'm making reference to is the continuous improvement cycle. This is a part of continuous improvement. That's why this particular document is a living document, because it's always changing. They're always going back and looking at this document. This is what I said, but this area needs some improvement. My kids are not doing well in the first semester, or they are doing well. So we need to continue doing that, or we can't get our parents in. So I need to meet with my staff. And I also need to meet with the principal. Because your staff is not the only people that you're going to, or they're going to talk to. But even you're a stakeholder. What do you recommend? What do you recommend to the grantees that they do? You play a very vital role in all of this. Because sometimes they don't know how to bring in the community. Sometimes they don't know how to bring in the teachers, because even the teachers who are not even working for 21st century, because it's a continuous cycle, everybody plays a part in this. The parents play a part in this. The student plays a part in this. So it's important that we put everybody on board and recognize that each individual is important. And we also need to know, what is your next step? If what you're doing is working, then what is your next step? If what you're doing is not working, then what is your next step? You're their first point of contact before when they talk to their staff, then when they sit down and they are talking to the external evaluator, it is extremely important that you understand what they're doing. So, because when you go in and observe, you can understand the process or the planning of the staff and whether or not that what they have on paper is actually aligning with what you're seeing. If it's not, then you need to report that. You need to write that down, because according to your plan, this is the mid-year report. Based on your goals and objectives, you have an action plan, and that action plan should be implemented. And it's also a part of your school improvement. So all of this is connected together. It's when we disconnect, it's when there's an issue. This plan should be connected to the continuous improvement plan. This plan should be discussed with teachers, staff, faculty, students. This plan should also be somewhere in the 21st century world. You need to see this. They need to know that this is what we're doing. These are some of the steps that we're using, and this is working. We're working with the school together, because this is not a separate entity. We're working together. We're collaborating together. How do you know that Johnny is not doing well in school if you don't collaborate with the teacher, with the counselor? I read one report, and one report said that a suggestion was that we have professional development on strategies. That's a good suggestion. That's a good recommendation. And they also said, maybe we can pull in some of the teachers as resources, or some of the staff members, even the reading or math coaches as resources. So now we're working together as one unit versus this is the after-school program and this is the school. We're a team. This is a part of yet a cycle to make sure the academic grades go up, make sure that our students are doing well and are safe. Because most parents say that they like 21st century because the students are in a safe environment. So this document must be signed by you, must be discussed with your site coordinators or your program director. Everybody should be able to have a part in this mid-year report. Remember to make sure that the TA also get a copy of this, and it's also signed. But this document still is a work in progress. We had to go last year and revise and revamp this particular document, because it was clear to us that what we thought we gave them, the way we interpreted it, was slightly different from the way they interpreted it. So we are trying to make sure that we are transparent. We're trying to make sure that we are understood. We are trying to make sure that we're working together on whatever we do with the grantee as well as with the external evaluator. So if there's any questions that you all may have about the mid-year report, about the final report, or easy report, or anything, not only are we available to them, we are also available to you. So please make sure that you reach out to any one of the TPI staff if there's any questions about the mid-year report, because as I read them, if I don't see certain things that we've asked for, I will send them back. And I will also send you a copy because you signed it. Do I hold you kind of sort of responsible? Yes, I do. Because when you're reading these, you're also, as an external evaluator, making sure that you're evaluating, making sure you're looking for their best interest, and that they are moving in the directions that they should be moving in, and whether or not they are working on things that they're maybe struggling in, and they may need some help in improving that. Like, for an example, if I have only 45 kids in my program, but my proposal was 150, that's a problem. Can you help me by recommending some of the things that I need to do? So in the mid-year report, give me some strategies. If you don't think the strategies that I have on my mid-year report are valid, make some suggestions, because we're here to assist one another. Thank you, Erica. Any questions about this mid-year report template and how it's to be done? And remember that Erica said it is still a work in progress. But the one problem that we had last year was the action plan. The action plan was questionable, the information that they turned in or submitted to us. Now, Erica did an outstanding job as explaining the final report. We received the final report back in September 30th, 2024, excuse me. One thing that I saw on the final report, if you submitted a report that said easy report did not have that information, this is not going to be acceptable. You're going to have to communicate, go back and communicate with the site coordinators and the program, because easy report is not your only point of data resource. So, which means that you might have to do a revision, and that's okay. You're just revising, because easy report is still working on the GPA, as Erica mentioned earlier. But NA, reach out to your site coordinator, or reach out to the program director to make sure that most of the information that we ask in the final report template is being placed inside of your final report document. Now, you all have done an outstanding job as you know, decorating, putting in pictures. Excellent. And kudos to you all, because you have shown us what you see when you go out there. So please use the, you can use the template as a guide, but we want to make sure that you make this your own. This is your report. The template is a guide. Want to make sure that you put everything that is required in the template, but you're making this your own. You're making, or you're showing us what you see when you go out and you observe the sites. Now, make sure that you're using quantitative and qualitative data. And like Erica said before, the strength and the weaknesses. This is some of the things that you already know. And so if you have any questions about this, and like I said, some of your final reports, even though you submitted them, they're going to have to be revised. Some of the information that you did not see in easy report at the beginning, you see now. But since you have waited on the easy report, that means you're going to have to do a revision versus asking your site coordinator or your program director for the information beforehand. So we're expecting some revisions on your final report. We're going to let you know what final report needs to be revised. So we're going to let you know that soon, and very soon. By the end of next week, you should know whether or not you need to do a revision. Okay, Erica. Okay, final reports. Communicate your needs with the grantees and when you need the report. If I were you, I wouldn't wait until July to ask for the school year report. Summer usually ends in July. There are very few grantees that extend their summer program throughout the month of July, but some do. But you're collecting data throughout the year. Throughout the year. Not just from easy report, as we indicated earlier, but through your the staff, through the students, through the parents, through the community, through the principal, through the teachers. But if you still need our help, please contact us. We're all are available to you. Not just, like I said earlier, not just to the grantees, but all of you. If you need our help, even if you need just an encouragement, we are here to help you, to assist you, to guide you. Even if you need training on easy report, we have provided training in the past on easy report, but if you need more of that, please let us know. Contact TPI. Okay, Erica. That's a final report. We've heard you. We remember last year, you said that we need to see some samples of some of the final reports. And what we have done, Erica has done, is created a Dropbox. And there are some samples. And if you click, Erica, can you click on that link for me, please? Oh, there it is. There are some samples that we have provided for you. And some of you, because we've read through some of your final reports, have done an excellent job as writing these reports, as recommending some great examples of what should or should not be done. And so what we've done, we have spotlighted some of you all, some of the external evaluators, not saying that if you don't see your name in this sample, that doesn't mean that your report is not good. We only chose 5 out of many, just so that you can see from another perspective or another point of view what they see and how they're highlighting or showcasing, excuse me, what's happening in their programs or what's happening in the sites that they're observing. So if you need to have access to this link, we're going to provide you access, because once you load it into Quadrix, you can't go back and look at what you've uploaded. So with this box, you're able to look at some of the sample final reports that has been submitted to us. And we've highlighted 5. So please, in your leisure time, go back and you look at them and you'll see what we're talking about and what we're looking for and what we expect when we look at one of these final reports. Are there questions about this, about the link? Because I know this is something that you all asked for.
You will have to have a box login. It doesn't have to be an Auburn box login. It is open for anybody to see, to view, not to upload or anything else in there. But you will have to have a box login. So when you get to this screen or when you click on the link, it's going to ask you, are you a part of Auburn? Or if not, then it'll ask you for a box login. So be mindful of that. Also, yes, we did select 5. We, like Linda Williams said, we have not read through all of the final reports at this point. So we just picked a couple for y'all to see. They all have different pieces of things that we thought were good. Some have really good recommendations, some have really good observations, different parts. So check them all out. But remember your document, because I'm also thinking about people saying, oh, well, I didn't want mine to be shared. They are created with federal funds, so they are public record. So just like the RFAs that they write, anything that you do and it is paid for with federal funds, it is part of the Open Records Act and it can be asked for and published at any point. So be mindful. I hope you didn't share anything. They ain't got nothing personal on them, but if that's your technique, that's your technique. But we want to be able to share so that everybody can kind of see a couple of them, see what some good, there are some really good recommendations. If you see them, you're going to see that we reference them in this training. Some really good recommendations, really good observations in these trainings and in these documents. But we want y'all to get an idea of what we're looking for. Think about this as far as number of page numbers, because we have some people who they create documents as like, how your final report 20 pages. So these are good samples.
Yes.
If this isn't what you're looking for, or you think, oh, well, I need a sample of this, shoot us an email and we will try to find you a sample of that, because we want to figure out how to make these reports better for the grantees to use, so that they can have better programs.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Erica. Like I said, it's only 5, but there's some more that are out there that are extremely well written. I was so impressed with some of the recommendation. I called Erica. I said, Erica, listen to this. I get it. It doesn't take a whole lot to get me excited, but some of the recommendations I feel are really well written, and there's something there, something that the grantees can actually use. And so when you go out there and you're writing recommendations, you're writing something that, hey, can they use this? Is this beneficial? Is this something that they can actually take to the next level? How can I bring in more strategies based on these recommendations that you've given me? And you want to make sure that they are actually reading the final report, because some of these are like 80 some pages long. They're really, really long. But it's imperative that you sit down and you have a conversation, not just with the site coordinator and the program director, but you have a conversation with the staff. This is according to a whole year, which includes the summer of data. So your stakeholders need to know what has been written. So this document should be shared. And so by the time you get ready to write your evaluation plan, this is a new year. What do you think that they need to work on based on what you saw last year? Because if parental involvement was a problem last year, it may be a problem. It's going to be a problem this year as well. And you want to know whether or not they are actually taking what you have written down and capitalizing on it. Did they hear me when I say that there needs to be an improvement in discipline or behavior? Did they hear me when I wrote this down on paper? And if they did not hear it, you need to reiterate what you've spoken in that final report, even in the evaluation plan and even in the mid-year report. Questions? This is coming to you in the near future. We will provide the link. But thank you all for giving us some great reads. Some of them were long, but it was worth it. Okay, Erica, I am ready to go on. Now, you know what? I'm going to turn it over to Alicia and Amanda. What's new? What's the new state update with the grantees?
And we've been in the chat box for a minute talking about
I'm sorry, Erica, I didn't see that.
No, you're good. It kind of goes right along with updates or what's new. So someone asked, are you saying there should be one report per grant location or one report per each school in the grant when we upload for Auburn Qualtrics? And I said, no, it's generally one report per grant.
Grant.
Like previously, I had a grant that I wrote for a middle school and an elementary school. So that report was together because it was one grant. So it's one final report or one evaluation plan per grant. So if you wrote it with one school, two schools, three schools, your final report and evaluation plan and mid-year plan and all of that is just per your grant.
Yeah, but you're going to have to make sure that you observe both sides.
Yes.
Even though it's one grant, observation has to be done at both schools.
Yes.
Because, the same thing's not happening at both schools. So you have to make sure that you observe and do the same thing for both schools, but you're only writing one final not final evaluation plan, but final report, excuse me. One final report.
That goes back to what I said about, when you decide that you're going to be the external evaluator for a grantee, you need to ask them what are the specifics of their grant. You need to read their grant. You need to know that they have one site or multiple sites. Yes. How far is the sites? You need to be thinking about all of that before you decide to create yourself a budget. No, I'm not asking for your budget at this point, but you need to have a budget. And I say this because we've had a couple of external evaluators. After they agree to be their external, they are quitting on our grantees in the middle of the year or right before the final report is due or whatever. It is almost impossible to get an external evaluator to finish an evaluation report that already was started by another grantee. Number one, you've already paid them half the first evaluator half the money. And so you're wanting the external evaluator that finishes it up to complete the report with only half of the money. They don't want to do that. So I want you to be thinking about your budget. How many sites is it? How much travel is it? How much time do I have to dedicate to creating these reports for them based on their parameters? Because I have some people who they don't write for the full amount. I had somebody who wrote for $90,000 and then the external evaluator didn't want to work with them because they realized, well, it was the same amount of work
Same
for
amount.
200,000 with the 90,000. But it really isn't, because it's less kids and less staff and less people to think about, but you are going to have to do the same report. So think about all of that before you decide to be an external evaluator for them. That's the 1-year contract is not just for the grantees, it's for y'all too. You can, and I've had a couple of external evaluators this year. Hey, it's been too difficult to get the information from them. They don't want to form a relationship. They don't communicate well. I don't want to be their external evaluator anymore. Don't blame you. So think about that. Think about all of these things before you decide to be their external evaluator for another year. That's another reason why we kind of don't have this training before the fiscal year starts. So we want you, when you finish creating their final report, finish and then decide, no, I don't want to fool with y'all again, or yes, let's renew our 1-year contract. Let's continue with this so that we can keep building our relationship, keep building the documentation and these reports for the program to be better. On here I have ALSD updates and what's new. So I want to kind of tell y'all what's coming up, and I have ALSD on here. So I'm just gonna briefly talk about it. And if they have comments, they can add to it, because it is going to change our final reports going forward. With the new cohort, not with the cohort that we have right now, not with 16 and 17. But for the upcoming grant, which is cohort 26, the timeline is changing. We normally didn't get the grants and award the grants. The RFA might have came out in March or May, and then the grant was turned in and completed, and everybody got their information for the grant to start normally in October. Yes, last year we were later. It was like November, the end of November. But that's changing. The grant is scheduled to come out in November this month. We've already had some RFA informationals. They are on the YouTube page if you'd like to look at them, because that's going to give you an idea of the changes that have been made or that are coming. The one that was recorded on Monday especially gave some specifics and told you about the budget and the percentage for the RFA and how much the budget is going to be. So for all of that, check out the informationals that are on our YouTube page. There's a link to our YouTube page on the Alabama 21st Century website. And we'll give y'all that link in a minute. But the timeline is changing. So if the grant is going to be awarded by the summertime, and they're going to be able to start this new school year. So in August, the 21st Century grants will start. We will have training at Mega Conference in July for the 21st Century grants. And there also will be the option of having school year grants with or without summer, and a summer grant, only summer. So that's going to change the way you observe programs. That's going to change potentially your budget. That's going to change how many students they have per their grant, because their students is directly tied to how much they request. But the biggest change is that the timeline is changing. So with the timeline changing, I can't tell you right now when the mid-year report and the final report and the evaluation plan will be due, because the dates have sort of shifted. But we'll figure that out before the grant is awarded. Me and Amanda and all the TL, everybody will talk about it. But that's the biggest thing that's changing. If Alicia or Amanda or Carla or Kelly want to add to that, please let y'all. I'm gonna have to unmute y'all to do it. Let's see. Y'all want to add to that?
Hey, this is Amanda. I think you covered most of it. I do just want to say that because that timeline is changing, we probably also are going to consider changing when that final report is due, because we really want the sites to be able to use that final report to plan for the next year. And since they get them so late now, they can't really do that. So that's another thing that's going to, we really need to think about that. And we we may even think about doing a separate final report for an academic year and the summer. Just, of course, the summer would be a much more simplistic, probably report, because, there's going to be probably less data to collect during the summer, especially like grades and things like that. That's not going to be a thing during the summer. So, but yeah, those are all things that we're going to take into consideration. So yes, change is coming. But that is another thing that I would really like to see is us having those final reports, completed and done and to the sites in plenty of time for them to use that data to plan for the next year, plan their action steps for the next year. So other than that, I think Erica covered everything. And if anybody has any suggestions, we're all open to suggestions. Because I'm new to this and several of our team is new to this, we are seeking as much suggestions and new ideas as possible. I'm, reaching out to other states and doing a lot of research there as well, because we want to make sure this is the best program it could possibly be. So open to suggestions. If you have them, feel free to email us at the State Department. We're always open to any good ideas that anyone might have.
Make sure you share them now, external evaluators, because what I found out in the past is as soon as we end this meeting, I get tons of calls with what you would like to share, but you need to share it now. Please share it now, because once we end this, later is okay, but everybody needs to hear your idea.
And y'all can either put it in the chat box or you
Yeah.
can raise your hand and I'll unmute. I will go ahead and give you the preview of the amount of money, because that's going to be the question that people are going to ask.
Mhm.
I mean, you're going to go hunting for it. So the grants are up to 500,000.
500,000. So it's just to give you a little preview. It's going to be, as Erica said earlier, it's based off the number of students that they plan to serve and the number of hours they plan to serve those students. So the calculation they'll use to figure out the amount of money that they will ask for is the number of students they plan to serve times the number of total hours of their program times $6. So in an example that I just know off the top of my head, because I've recently put it into a presentation, if they served 100 students for 300 hours, which is the bare minimum, that times $6 would be a $180,000 grant. But do understand that 300 hours is not very much for a school year program. It's usually a lot more than that. So, but they can go up to 500,000. They can actually go above 500,000 because we're also offering them a transportation allocation. So if they're providing transportation to their schools, they could get an additional 10,000 for schools that are not rural, and then up to 20,000 additional for schools that are in rural areas. So that's how that's going to
calculated for the 3% for external evaluators.
Yeah, so it still says 3% in the RFA, but Erica's right. We do need to come up with some sort of guidelines to use, because that could end up being a lot of money. And so we want to make sure that we are getting our bang for our buck. So yes, we will definitely be thinking about how exactly that's going to look. And it makes sense to pay you more if the program is a lot larger. It just may be that it may have, what's coming to my mind right now, and this may obviously change, but what's coming to my mind is, for programs, we may base what your deliverables are off of the size of the program. So if they're only serving 50 to 100 kids, then we might ask you to visit twice, like you normally have been doing. If they're serving 300 kids, then we're going to ask you to visit more often, or something to that effect. So we'll just have to think about that. But we'll have that in place by the time the grant is announced, and we'll be working on developing something for that.
Thank you. Linda D is going to talk about the website. Let's see, I might have to unmute her.
Hey y'all, can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm just going to tie in some loose ends. I think the other three people that have spoken have done a really great job of going into detail. First, I'd like to say how excited I am about a revised timeline. I think when the grants have been awarded well into the fall year, it's like you're breathlessly catching up. So I'm quite excited about the earlier grants being made. And I also like to loop back to some other things. The surveys, it was mentioned that for GEPRA 5, it's really important to do the survey, for the sites to do the surveys at the end of the year. But for external evaluators, there are also other surveys built into Easy Reports that each site can use to gather additional information that can be folded into your final report. For example, very few of the sites are currently using the stakeholder survey. How do the partners feel about their relationship? And I would love to see more, frankly, when I'm reading through these reports, I would love to see more stakeholder feedback. And when you're talking to your sites, you can mention that to them that, yeah, I'm going to talk to your students and talk to your parents. And you can also collect, in addition to the teacher surveys, these other types of surveys that are already in Easy Reports. So it's easy for them to gather that data. So just a thought there, nurturing that stakeholder relationship. Also, because you evaluators already have access to read only on Easy Reports, take a little time and explore the type of data that you can gather in Easy Reports. Click through it and just take a look at what's available there, so that if you see a report that you want to generate, just experiment a little bit with it. And there's something called Report Wizard where you can put in your own parameters. So when you have a few minutes, and I know a few minutes are sometimes hard to find, go ahead and explore that a little bit. And finally, I wanted to encourage you to put the 21st Century website in your favorites, because you're going to need to go back to that 21st Century website to pull down documents. Your slide tells you how you can access those documents, and we'll be putting the templates up on that website if they're not already there. And just explore that website a little bit too, because there are other things on it besides the external evaluator documents. There are resources, for example. So explore it a little bit. And finally, again, feel free to contact any of us if you're stumped about something. We can probably give you some advice, maybe, and we can brainstorm together. I enjoy reading the reports and seeing what's being done out there. So thank you for all of your hard work on that. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Okay, so here's the directions for the website.
Somehow I've lost my slide.
You're good. So the external evaluation documents can be found on our website, and that's the link, alabama21cclc.org. To access the documents, you're going to click the hamburger on the top right. Let me see if I can open this page for y'all.
Yeah, I need to. My slides have completely disappeared.
Okay. This is what I mean by the hamburger, the 3 dashes on the top right, and then external evaluator. And then your documents are normally posted down here. And as you can see, 23 are on there. We haven't uploaded the 24, 25s yet, but they will be there soon. So we will send them out. Linda Williams is going to send them out next week. At least the evaluation plan template and this PowerPoint slide and the recordings. But know that it's always housed on our website. So you can go in and you can search for this. If you go back to the first page, and this is our calendar that has all of our trainings that we do for the grantees. So even all of the RFA informationals, they're linked on there. This is all the staff with the contact information. If you click them, resources, and then down here at the bottom is our YouTube page. So if you click the little YouTube link, and you can just go to YouTube and look for it if you want to. We're just at Alabama 21 CCLC. And these are all of the videos that are posted. Normally, our external evaluation videos are posted if it didn't include proprietary information. So like our external evaluation, our easy report training, it's not listed on here. They're never going to be listed on here. So when we email you the link, that's your access to the link to that recording. It won't be posted on the website because of their proprietary information. Because they will go back and check and pull the data if we show it. So, but those are the two places where you'll get information. Of course, you'll still get information from me and from the Linda Williams through email. And again, you'll have our contact information in a little bit. And if you don't have it, you'll get emails from us and we'll share it again. And there is an email address for the State Department if you have questions about the RFA, because people have questions about that right now. So you're going to communicate your needs with the grantees, and when you need the reports, this should be a great time for you to have a meeting with them on the evaluation plan. I will say, like, I've seen an external evaluator be in on like a meeting with the program director and the site director. It was a good time for them to talk about what was going on and update. So that's a good way to get something scheduled with them if you don't like have time to go out, because you'll get a lot of information from the site directors in addition to the program directors or site coordinators. I use those words interchangeably, y'all. Instructions will be sent out to grantees and posted on the Alabama 21 CCLC site. The trainings and stuff like that, I send it to them. Emails that go to y'all will generally come from Linda Williams. I don't generally add our external evaluators to the email distribution list that the grantees get weekly, because they get weekly emails for updates and due dates and PD and all of that. And it's just all not applicable to y'all, but they can feel free to forward y'all information that I send out to them weekly if it's pertinent to y'all. Again, I'm saying shared calendar would be great. If they still need help, encourage them to get in touch with TPI if they ask you a question or if they call you, because you're a first resource for them. And then these are our contact information. That's mine, Linda Dean and Linda Williams. I'll pause on that page for a little bit. I might need to move my box out the front of that. Sorry, y'all. And other than that, that's pretty much it. We have one more, it just says thank you. So, but I'll give y'all a minute to get the email address if y'all need it. If you are new and have been assigned to a grantee, when you registered, you should have given us the grantees that you have currently. If you I have some that we've looked at the registration the other day, and I noticed that you didn't list all of your external evaluators. So we'll have another something where you'll give us all the grantees that you have. And if some have dropped and you want to let us know, that it'd be a great time to let us know. So that can be in an email or whatever. We do not mind hearing from y'all. So if y'all have any questions, now's a good time to do it.
Erica, please tell them that keep in mind that the grantees have an option to choose a new external evaluator if they need to. So make sure that you build a very good rapport with your grantee or your site coordinator and your program director. This is a new year.
I'm glad you said that, because I did have a grantee recently who said that they wanted a new external evaluator because they didn't like the way the external evaluator talked to them. So be mindful of how y'all talk to these grantees. They are adults. We want to be respectful to each other and be mindful if the advice that you're giving them is outdated 21st century stuff, because 21st century is ever changing. Those federal regulations changed a lot in the last year or so. So just be mindful of things like telling them they should have a receptionist when receptionist is not included in the grant anymore. That does not fly. So if a site director is answering the door, that's probably because they are the only person that is getting paid admin that is available to answer the door because their budgets are restrictive. So just think about those things when you're thinking about, well, why did they not, keep me for another year? Because a lot of times the reports are great and just they didn't want to deal with you. So be mindful of that. But if you have questions, let me figure out how to let y'all unmute if y'all have questions.
Is it possible that we can hear from some of the external evaluators? Let us know how you're thinking, what's going on in your mind right now, if it's possible.
You should be, anybody can unmute at this point.
I just want to say I really appreciate this training. This is my second year as an external evaluator. And last year I felt like I was confused and muddled my way through. And this year I think I have a much clearer understanding. And I think this training specifically was very clear. And so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Erica, it's Sarah. I just wanted to say that we had mentioned last year and we never really got it jump started, but are you all still in agreement with the evaluators kind of building a community, maybe socially, or getting together to share ideas with each other? I know we talked about it, but it never really came to fruition. And I would love to do that because I feel like a lot of times we're in a silo and we don't really get to talk or share ideas or even frustrations. Not that I have any, but I think it would be a great thing to do. And if it's possible, do you have a place where you want us to do that would be connected with you all, or should we do it externally? What are your thoughts?
I did create the box folder. So that's a place where y'all can share contact information. I can put the external evaluator list in there because that has all of your email address. But how y'all how y'all do a network exchange, I don't have a great idea. If you want to do a group me, that's an easy one. If you want to just do an email distribution list that y'all kind of talk back and forth, CC me in it or don't CC me in it. If you just want to talk about us, that's fine too.
No, we would never do that.
Create a
I
Facebook
was just
page.
thinking
Either way.
if there was a way that we could maybe meet before these big ideas, like before we do the big evaluation push, if anybody or plan push, if anybody had any questions, if we could share, if anybody was struggling, if they were new, and if they're not new, there's times I struggle and I've been doing it for years. So just if they would like to do that, I certainly would love to do some collaboration with some of the other evaluators.
So we did talk yesterday when I created the box folder for y'all to share documents and stuff and kind of see examples of stuff. We talked about a technical assistance Zoom, not where I'm presenting y'all something where y'all have times to ask questions. And so that might be, and if we want to do one of those, I suggested that we do it closer to maybe like the summertime when you're getting ready to start writing your final reports or pulling the things from Easy Report. But if you want to do another one earlier in the year, so if we want to do one before the evaluation plan, then just let me know and I will set up a Zoom link and we just call it a technical assistance or office hours and we can do questions, answers, that type of things. Because again, y'all all ask questions, but there's not a good way to kind of let everybody know, hey, this is a good question, and share it. So.
And one last thing, I have had several of my folks ask this year. I did it a couple years ago, then I didn't do it this past year, but I'm going to go ahead and set up electronic folders and let them know. And I actually have one client that shares with me the same folders that they share with the State Department. So I think I'm going to go maybe similar to that, but just pull out the ones that are just pertinent for external evaluation. And I'm just going to go ahead and set that up, do like a different, every client has their own folder to go to so that it's all separate. But that has worked really well in the past for me. And I think I'm going to go back to that this year because it did get kind of really stressful at the end with so many. But if anybody would like to know how we do that, I'll be happy to share that. That's just one thing, Ms. Linda, that has helped me in the past to keep everything going forward. So if that would be helpful, I'd be happy to share.
That goes really hand in hand with what I said about sharing the calendar. I did used to share documents with them, but so for compliance, they upload into Cognia, but we've asked, because they'll have a shorter compliance this coming year. So we've asked them to not necessarily upload in Cognia yet, but to add it to, a Google Docs form, or they won't share Google Docs with the State Department because they don't do Google, but some type of shared forms where they can have access, and then they can kind of upload that stuff when necessary. But it's great for y'all to see that too, because I want y'all to know a lot of the things that you will be looking for are going to be in their compliance checklist and stuff. But it's also for you to get an idea of all the things that they have to do aside from the things that you're asking them to do. So if you can put those things together, then yeah, that sounds great.
And keep in mind, they have a long list of stuff that Erica just mentioned that they have to do. And so when you're asking them for stuff that you can pull from Easy Report, or you can ask maybe from us, yes, some of the stuff from GEPR, we may not be able to assist you with. But keep in mind that those site coordinators and program directors have a lot of work to do. Erica, one of the things that are in the chat box, somebody said they would love an in-person evaluation training.
I just saw that. Y'all want to come to Auburn, I will set it up. We can find a room.
Yeah. Love it, love it, love it. I'm gonna call on somebody right now, Erica, because I've not heard from them. Judy, are you out there? She's gonna kill me. Judy Manning, are you out there? She's quiet, but she's out there, full of ideas. I don't know whether she's on this or not, but all of you all are awesome. You are awesome. You're awesome. You're awesome. We cannot say that enough. We cannot emphasize it enough. And I like the idea of the shared or collaborative group meeting where you all can actually get on and share ideas. That sounds inviting.
Amanda, go ahead.
Hey, so Erica, I think it's a great idea if you could just go ahead and plan to set up a couple of office hours before those times. If nobody shows up, then that's fine. But let's just go ahead and plan to have that on the calendar. It won't be like this type of meeting where there's slides and all that, but it'd be just a place where you guys could come together and ask questions and talk and plan together. And we'll just go ahead and plan to set that up. If you wouldn't mind doing that. The other thing is I want to readdress some items in the chat about how many reports needs to be written. I think Linda Dean came back and kind of clarified, but I just want to make sure everybody saw that. So we have certain grants. So you got your sub-grantees, right? And they may have multiple sites. And so that site might serve one school, that site might actually serve a couple of schools. But if you're getting paid more than once, so the way I've seen it, and I am new, but with the way I've seen it is that each site it's kind of confusing, but each grant that is awarded, so you could have a subgrantee that is awarded actually, we'll say 4 grants because they have 4 different sites. Okay. And that site might serve one school, it might actually serve a couple of schools. If you're getting paid 4 times from 4 different grants, then you need to do 4 different reports, right?
Right.
So, just wanted to clarify that so that you wouldn't think, so that nobody would have the confusion that, oh, the subgrantee has 4 different sites, but I only have to do 1 report now. That's great. No, if they're paying you 4 times from 4 different grants, you need to do 4 different reports. That's the only fair way, in my opinion, to do it, because you're getting paid 4 times, so you need to do the full work for those 4 different sites. But if it's that one site, you're getting paid 1 time, but you have to go to 2 schools because those 2 schools are sharing that money, then you just do 1 report for those 2 schools. So just wanted to clarify that so that there wasn't any confusion.
That is correct. Thank you, Amanda.
Anybody else have any other questions, comments? And
I
we
did.
will get those dates out for y'all for the technical assistance and the other trainings that we'll have. But at least we'll get you the date for the next technical assistance. We'll definitely have something before the December 15th, before the evaluation plan is due. So that will probably be sometime end of November, 1st of December, something like that. Probably 1st of December, because we're gonna run into Thanksgiving that last week. But be looking for that. Linda Williams will send that information out, and that'll just be a Q&A, office hours for y'all to ask questions or whatever. If nothing else, y'all have a good one. I'll stop the recording. Remember, we're here for y'all. If y'all have questions or comments or need anything, let us know. We are here to help for that.
Thank you so much for this time that you have given to us on directives. I appreciate it. This is Pamela Cloud, that's 21st Century Evaluator for Elmore County.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you all. Have a great evening.